Good morning. It is December 12th, 2013. This is Jason Horak reporting on the Dodge Daytona electric vehicle. As you can see, it's a typical winter day here in central New York. We got a fairly good amount of snow last night, and the poor little Daytona is now covered in snow. So again, fairly typical. As you can see, I've got the charge cord plugged in here on the side, so it was charging all night, and it snowed just a wee bit, but the plug being all waterproof and stuff helps a lot, and there we go. So somewhere underneath all that snow, the charger is still running, but of course it's gone down to 0 amps. And it stopped a long time ago. Basically what I do, standard procedure, is when it's cold out, I'll make sure that I drive the car and put, pull a lot of amps out of the batteries right before I park it. So, I'll take it up on the highway for a quick little jaunt, or, do some hard accelerations, that kind of thing, just to make sure that it's, the batteries have been warmed up a little bit before I park it and start immediately charging. So anyway, that's what I did last night, and when I came out, it was covered in snow, as you can see. So I'm gonna go ahead and get it cleaned off, and then we're gonna go for a little drive. I have a client appointment this morning, and so there'll be some highway driving and all that kind of good stuff in the wintertime. So I'll be right back. Alrighty then, so got the car cleaned off, and now we're inside. You can probably hear in the background I have the heater going, so again, that's just this switch here, which turns on the heater. At the moment, my heater is kind of broken in that I only have one of the two heater cores working. One of the wires that I had spliced together for the other heater core half, basically there's two ceramic elements in the heater core, and I had one of the crimps that I did didn't hold on the other, like the secondary ceramic element, and so as a result it came undone and wasn't connected. So I decided to disconnect that whole side of the heater core in order to prevent sparking or any of that kind of thing. It would probably work okay, but unfortunately it's in a location underneath the dash that I can't really get to very easily, so I don't want to risk it. So I had unplugged it, and so now we're only running on half power of heat. So half of the heater core is always cold and half is nice and warm, but it's enough to defrost the window. I don't know if you can see the melted ice on the window there, and it keeps the windows clear. So it really hasn't been a problem or anything, so I just wanted to mention that, that even with only one ceramic element, it's not enough to cook you out of the car like it is with two, but it is enough to defrost the windows and put at least a little heat in here, so it feels much more comfortable than outside at this point. So anyway, that's where we're at. So we're showing, again, I'm not sure how well the camera's making this out in the lighting, but we're at 193.8 volts, and actually I think I'll zero that out, even though we're drawing 5 amps just to run the little half a heater core and the fan blower. So if we turn the fan blower off, it doesn't actually make any difference there, or a little bit, because the heater element takes less current if it's not moving the air across it. So turn it back on, brings it back up, and so anyway, so that's where we're at there. It's showing about 8 amp hours over 0 from last night from the charge, and that just gets into inaccuracies with the GLD404 at low voltages, like when the charger is charging. So I am running at 59 cells instead of the 60 because of that one that I kind of melted the top of a little bit. So anyway, that's where we're at today. So we're going to go ahead and go for a little drive. 170,048 is what we're showing on the odometer, and otherwise we're ready to go. So I can get my glove on with one hand. Okay, so here we go. Reverse. Always kind of tricky backing out of the driveway when it's covered in so much snow. It's fairly bright out, so we'll see how well the camera deals with blindingly bright winter snow weather, or yeah, light reflecting off the snow. So it is fairly warm in here. I mean, it's one of those things where if I had my 2 heater cores, I'd have to actually turn the heater off at this point because I'd be too hot. But now we're in 3rd gear. It's going along at 42 miles an hour, give or take. It is a 35 zone, so anyway. .45 zone. So ever since I had the incident where my motor had gotten too hot, I've been trying to keep the motor at a higher RPM than I normally would. So it's usually around 4,000 RPMs. That's kind of where I try to keep it. I'm not sure if that's good for it, bad for it, or indifferent, but I figure the faster that little fan is spinning inside the motor, the more cooling we're going to have. And on a day like today, you wouldn't think that cooling would be such a big deal since it's below 0 and windy and miserable, but hey, you know, whatever. So you can probably hear in the back a little bit of water noise. So that's the slush and salt and crap from the road hitting against the rear wheel well. Not a whole lot of insulation back there. And somebody cut a big old hole in the trunk and put a battery box. And so the battery box is insulated, but the area kind of around it just has some caulk to keep the water out. Anyway. Alright, so what we're going to do is shift to 4th. And yield. And so we're accelerating from 4th from just about a dead stop. Just because it makes it easier not to have to shift. And since I've been keeping the RPMs higher, in general, I tend to travel on the highway in 4th gear, because if I'm going into 5th gear, then I'd kind of have to go faster than the legal speed limit in order to kind of keep that RPM range up. So, it works out okay. So today we're going north on 81, which is going up to Preble, where one of my clients is. But yeah, as you can see, lots of snow out there. It's winter time in central New York. About a week and a half ago, there was no snow at all. It was completely green grass everywhere, and here we are. So. These guys will get moving. Otherwise, we'll be kind of stuck behind trucks and things. There we go. So, you know, keep it up with traffic, obviously, 74 miles an hour. probably pass these guys if we get a chance. Let's get some open road underneath us. So the RPMs kind of bounce around a bit on my dashboard here, but we're showing about 4,000, between 4,000 and 5,000. I have the Soliton limited to 5,000, so it can't ever get more than that. Just because I think that's the net gain Warp 9 spec for how fast. But yeah, so we're at 75 miles an hour, which is typically what I travel on the highway. It's right around 4,200, 4,300, somewhere in there. But we're going to accelerate here a little much to get past this guy. Come on. So now we're pushing it up to about 5 at 88 miles an hour. Going back in time. Typical winter drive in central New York. See all the trees with all the snow on it and so forth. But anyway, I just figured I'd do a little update here because I do drive this car every day to all my appointments, and it sees a lot more abuse, I think, than most other electric vehicles on the road, or at least the do-it-yourself ones. People put $25,000 into a project and a whole lot of man-hours worth of labor and so forth, and they're beautiful classic car or whatever. I drive a Dodge Daytona. I love my car, but it has to serve every single day for a daily driver. So that's what daily driving was like here in central New York, so that's what it gets to do. Sure, the poor little Warp 9 motor is just loving all the slush and crap, but there's only so much one can do to keep it out of there. So, anyway, that's it for today. Just figured I'd give you a little update. Take care and have a good one. Just a little aside here. Had to take a detour due to a bridge being worked on. And so just kind of, a little more backcountry driving here in the EV in the middle of the winter. A little less of the highway driving type stuff. So, not that this really matters or anything, but because I can take off in any gear I want, I generally in the wintertime I'll take off in third. And this is makes it easier because the tires don't spin as much. If I take off in second, I tend to spin the tires in any kind of loose, like ice or snow or anything. So take it off in third tends to work out better for that. And since I can go from 0 to about 60, 65 miles an hour technically in third gear, it works out well for any like side roads and even in town, like just bombing around, stopping at stoplights and that kind of thing. So anyway, just kind of thought I'd mention that since I'm taking the back roads here for this little detour. Anyway, pretty day for a drive. Always nice when the sun is shining and see all the snow glistening and so forth. Alrighty then, so we've just returned back from our appointment today. Took most of the day and it's now getting on toward dusk. Getting a little bit dark out. And anyway, so the mileage at the end of the day was 170,078. And I burnt 77.6 amp hours. Yay! Anyway, the car sat out in the about 20-degree temperature all day, but then I just drove it home, and it was, pulling 200 plus amps on the highway all the way back. So I'm assuming the batteries are sufficiently warmed up of their own reconnaissance, and I'm going to plug it in immediately and start charging. So anyway, that's it for today. Just figured I'd give you all an update on the current status of the EV. Things are working pretty good, and driving every day. Good afternoon. It is Monday, December 16th, 2013. This is Jason Horak reporting on the 1987 Dodge Daytona electric snowbank. As you can see, we've gotten quite a bit of snow over the last weekend. My last video was just late last week, and in the last couple days we had just a lot of snow, a lot of accumulation. I'm not sure if you can tell that it's actually snowing right now. There's a fair amount of wind, so I'm hoping the camera doesn't pick up too much wind noise. But anyway, so as you can see, the car's been plugged in the whole time, and the cord there, I was able to snow blow above the cord. I have a really cool electric snowblower that it has a big long extension cord and is able to move quite a bit of snow. It's a Toro Power Shoot, I believe is the brand and type. And anyway, it does a really good job. As you can see from my driveway, we had just quite a lot of snow there, and typical winter in central New York. But I just kind of wanted to show some of the just massive accumulation that we had recently, and just to kind of give you a sense of what this electric vehicle has to deal with all winter long. And so I'm going to go ahead and get her all cleaned up, but we've got a lot of snow in here. Like, okay, let's see here. So just height wise, so that's how much snow we got over the weekend. Kind of crazy. Anyway, there we go. You can see that my house is all covered in lots of snow and ice and all that fun stuff. And yeah, so anyway, winter in central New York. How fun is that? I'm gonna get the car cleaned off and go for a drive, because I've got to go to an appointment, because that's what I do, is go fix somebody's computer problems. Yay! Alright, so here we are driving around central New York in the wintertime, and so this is a example of driving inside, like in town. So you can see that there's a lot of snow on the road, snow and slush. It is below freezing at this point, but not below zero, as I mistakenly said in an earlier video. I meant below 0 centigrade and below freezing, but not actually below 0 Fahrenheit. Anyway, so this just gives you an example of, there's just massive amounts of snow, big piles from everyone trying to remove the snow off the roads and parking lots as best they can. So, doing a little spinning there, and so I am in third gear, and so it works pretty good for taking off without spinning the tires too much, as long as I don't punch it. But with the extra weight from all the batteries and with the thin, low rolling resistance tires, it actually works out pretty good for traction in the wintertime. I've never gotten stuck with this car, and we just kind of power on through all the snow drifts and so forth. So there you go. But anyway, I'm not really sure what else to say other than the fact that there's this kind of stigma that electric vehicles aren't well suited for winter driving, because hey, those batteries, they don't like the cold and so forth. And well, that's true, the batteries do not like the cold as much as the heat. They actually work just fine. They just have less total capacity that you can pull out of them when they're cold. Now, I haven't done any range checking on it specifically, but last year I did a test where I drove 100 miles at about 35 degrees, and it was fine. Where perhaps if it's even lower, like actually below 0 Fahrenheit, then you might run into a situation where you're getting 90-mile range, something like that, because one of the important things to remember is that yes, the batteries are cold, but they heat up internally a bit when they're being used. When you're pulling amps out of them, pull 200 amps out of a battery for 15 minutes, and that battery is not going to be below 0 anymore. And so, I don't know. But I haven't had any trouble. You know, the car starts up just fine. The electric motor doesn't care about the cold. In fact, it probably likes it because all the trouble I've had with my motor has been entirely overheating related. So there you go. But yeah, so this is typical. This is kind of my commute, actually. I only commute about 2 miles to one of my clients that I spend most of my time at. And it's no big deal. For the electric car, I could actually commute for about 2 or 3 weeks without charging if I wanted to. But I find it more convenient just to plug in my car when I'm at home and always leave home with a full charge and so forth. So anyway, this is just kind of very, very typical winter weather in central New York. We're not currently having a blizzard or anything, and so the road crews have had a chance to clear off the roads fairly well, especially these primary roads, but yeah. So anyway, just wanted to kind of give people a little preview of in-town driving in the electric vehicle, and central New York in the winter time. Take care, and have a good one.